What's going on? This is Yancy, author and producer of the This Is Why series. Make sure you go now and subscribe to my website, www.newfacemanagement.org. This is why you go to college.
Face Entertainment.
New Face Family. New Face Family.
This is why you go to college.
New Face Entertainment.
New Face Entertainment.
This is why you go to college.
New Face Entertainment.
This is why you go to college.
This is why you go to college.
And this is why you go to college.
And we're live. Hey, scribes, welcome to Year Right with Taiia Smart Young. And I am, of course, your host, Taiia Smart Young, your girl T. And what do we do here? We talk to self-published authors who are about using their work to create influence, impact, and income. And today's author is definitely about that. His name is Yancy Merchant, and he is the author of This Is Why. I'm gonna make sure I read the second part correctly. This is why you go to college, how to successfully graduate in real life studies outside the classroom and beyond. So please welcome Yancy Merchant. And we're gonna, the way this interview is gonna be set up, Yancy, is we're gonna first talk about your book and then talk a little bit about your self-publishing journey, because no self-published author's journey is the same. And I definitely want the scribes in this group to hear about your self-publishing journey. So since this book is about college, I gotta know, what kind of college student were you?
I was actually a pretty good college student, actually. I hit the ground running as soon as I got there. I graduated from Hampton University in 2005.
Shout out to Hampton.
Hampton
The real
University,
HU?
HBCU, always the real HU.
Okay, I think somehow people would disagree, but go ahead.
Nah, they'll be all right. They'll be fine. Yeah, I went down to Hampton in 2001. As you know, it was a crazy year because that was the year 9/11. Coming from Queens, New York, there was a lot going on that year. We had a lot of tragedy, but I hit the ground running. Right off the bat. I went down there with my best friend, Sean Washington. We went to high school and middle school together. So, we were about our books, but at the same time, we had fun. So our freshman year, we started throwing parties, started making money throwing parties, and then from there, I started joining different organizations, and before I knew it, I was basically creating something that ended up lasting a long time in Hampton and in that area.
Absolutely. And it seemed to me like the people on campus who always had money were the DJs, the guys who knew how to cut hair, the girls who knew how to do hair and nails, and the party promoters. So you were definitely in that elite group.
Entrepreneurs.
Like, right. You guys were not about like that oodles and noodles life. Y'all had some cash.
Yeah.
So talk to me about what happened during your time at Hampton and even your career experiences that made you want to connect some of your stories and your experiences to what it really is like outside of the classroom once you graduate, once you get that degree.
Well, obviously, when you go to, especially with an HBCU, it's something that, a school as strong as Hampton, you end up understanding that a network is very important. So in college, and then as I started to graduate and leave the area, I realized that I was still connected with a lot of those people. And it wasn't just about throwing parties, we ended up being best men, godfathers, and networks, so we started helping each other with different job opportunities, giving each other advice. And I noticed that there was so many different things that were going on throughout that time period over, about 15 years at this point, to realize that there was so much going on outside the classroom that helped us in our careers and our lives that had nothing to do with what took place inside the classroom.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think I learned that a lot, over time, that there was a lot that took place, and there's a lot that takes place now that has nothing to do with what we learned in the classroom, because I don't remember who was in my class. I know who I was hanging out with, and I know that we all graduated, but it had nothing to do with, the classroom setting.
Okay, we're going to dig into that in a little bit, but tell me, what's the biggest misconception you think that freshmen, once they get on campus, that they have, or even what you had, the biggest misconception? Because I think there's a lot of misconceptions once you get there. It's like you get there and it's about the degree, but is that true or not?
No, that's definitely not true. And I realized that immediately, that when you get to college, like, it's not even about the classroom, because at the end of the day, let's say Monday, Wednesday, Friday, you might have 3 classes. So you have 3 hours that's dedicated to a classroom time, and you have a whole 21 hours left to figure it out, whether it be studying or not, So I realized that immediately, what I'm saying? Like, I got to fill in my time somehow, I got to fill out a way to fulfill a need. And that's what we ended up doing right off the bat. Like, we decided, like, all right, well, let's figure out how, make our name in this area and get it going. Like the first week of school, we threw a house party off campus and made a few $100s, in the in a house party.
How did you even know where the spot was to throw the house party? Like, you're new to the yard. The first week?
Yeah, it was literally like the first week, and my cousin was a senior at the time, so we had a place, but for anyone who's familiar with Hampton, we had a curfew. We had a curfew for 1 a.m. on the weekends and 11 a.m. during the week. So we just took advantage of that opportunity to be like, what? It's a Friday, Saturday night. Let's rock out to about 12:45. You know what I'm saying?
And everybody run back to the yard. What did they do?
Right back to their dorm.
Okay.
But yeah.
This next question relates to what you're talking about, because you, in the book, you definitely talk about the importance of creating something while you're there.
Right.
So when you were in school, you created this group. You guys were party promoting. Why is it important to create something while you're in school versus saying, I'm just going to wait till I graduate to do X, Y, and Z?
All right. Well, I'm just going to give you like a quick story of when I just went on my college tour. I started down in Hampton and Old Dominion where I went to grad school at. There was a student down, and she looked like she was like basically ready to leave. And I was sitting in the student center. She might have seen me earlier from pushing my book and getting, doing book signings. And she was like, hey, I just wanted to talk to you. I'm from Richmond. Richmond's about an hour away from the 757 area. And she was like, I think I want to go back. She only been in school for 2 weeks. And I was like, why? She was like, I feel like it's not for me. I really haven't found my niche. And I was like, so I started picking her brain a little bit, and then come to find out that she wanted to do interior design. And she's like, when I graduate from college, I'm gonna do interior design. And I'm like, why would you wait till you graduate to do interior design? You're staying in a dorm room right now with a bunch of girls. I'm like, they all design in their room, right? They all working. I'm like start. She's like, I haven't spoken to anybody. I'm like, no, start talking to people in your dorm room. I'm like, if you need help, give me your email address. We'll figure this out right now. Like, and that's what I'm saying. Like, there's no reason to wait. And like, before that, me and her conversation was done, we got a name for her little business. We got her situated. So by the time, and I explained it to her, like, if you do it now, your freshman year, by the time you get to your sophomore year, half of those girls are want to move off campus, and you can help with the interior design of their apartments. And then before you know it, by the time you graduated, you have a whole business booming, as opposed to waiting until you graduate from college 4 years from now, and you got to go out and reach these people and try to find these people after you graduated. Meanwhile, you done created the network.
Exactly. Not only would she have created the network, but she started a portfolio. So because the thing is that a lot of times jobs won't look at you because you don't have anything, right? So here she is creating the thing, even if it is, she's become the master of I'm the one that hooks up all the dorms for all the women on the yard at Hampton. Yeah, makes perfect sense. All that experience would have been wasted had, and that little bit of, those couple minutes talking to her, and I ended up donating her a book as well, because I talk about that in my book. Like, you need to start now. There's no reason to wait. Like, why would you wait 4 years? Like, you have a plan in your mind already. Start working on that plan right now. No matter how big or how small it is, start working on it. There's no reason to wait. And use what you're learning to support the business. So if she's interested in interior design, then I was saying this on social media because I was asking people, I was posting questions saying, what would you do to set yourself up, your college self up for success now? And I was saying that I would have taken a couple business classes, because it's not enough to be a communications major and write and be able to edit and speak and all that. I was like, now I'm an entrepreneur. So I really would have been ahead of the game had I taken a couple business courses and knew where I needed to be for the future. So no, that's really important. You also talk about like organizations, and I think that's important too. Like, you could be Greek. We're both Greek. You could be in the ROTC. You could be a RA. it could be if you're an engineering major and you're part of a group that's for undergraduate students that are majoring in engineering. All of these different groups are important. Why?
They're all very important. And I think that, like I said, within the book, you have to be able to graduate inside the classroom and outside the classroom. And a part of that has to deal with joining organizations, because when you join organizations, you not only start creating network within the field of the things you're starting to learn, but then you also meet new people that you would have never met before. You find people that have the same ideas as you. Now all of a sudden you might have business partners, and then you learn how to speak. You learn how to present certain things. So like, let's say I wasn't a part of ROTC, but in my book I have different people who were a part of ROTC. So you have people that can give their experiences, and you can meet people that are at an area where you want to be. So you join an organization as a freshman, you're going to meet somebody as a senior that's in that same spot. Like, okay, this is where I want to be. This is what they did to learn. Meanwhile, if you didn't join the organization and you just went to class and went home, you would have never been able to meet that person to kind of steer you in the right direction. So you have to reinvent the wheel or kind of figure it out in your own way. So that's a big part of learning and graduating outside of the classroom, is joining organizations, no matter which organization it is. And I break down each one, in the book, like, whether it be Greek, SUB, student government associations, they all have different, they all fulfill a different need.
Right. Okay. So perfect example. Since you mentioned it, since you're Greek, and I'm Greek as well, let's talk about that. Let's talk about, because I think there can tend to be some, misconceptions about that. It's just about partying. It's just about wearing your letters on campus. But you actually do learn some leadership skills. What else do you think you learn by being in a Greek letter organization?
Yeah, and I talk about this pretty often too, even with my peers, and I spoke about it too when I was on my book tour. One thing I always want to say too, and you may not realize it when you're in college and you become Greek, like once you graduate, like you're part of a Greek family, So just because I'm an Alpha, I'm best friends with Qs, I'm friends with Sigmas. And we all have that collective, that collective idea, like, we're Greek together, and the network grows, So I just wanted to say that to let people know that just because you're an Alpha or you're a Kappa, once you graduate, a lot of that gets pushed to the side. Egos get pushed to the side. It's like, we're all together, So that's very important for people to understand. Yeah. But as a leader and as a Greek on campus, as an undergrad, you inherently become a leader, because people look up to you. I was vice president and president of my chapter. So I was, a leader within my chapter. But even if you didn't take that leadership position, you still will become a leader on campus, because people are going to look up to you, and, your peers are going to look up to you. And then the undergraduate students are going to look up to you. So if you do decide to go Greek, or it's something that you want to do, you have to understand that, it's more than just you that holds that name now. You hold the name of the chapter, you hold the name of the organization, and then you hold that leadership position, whether you think you hold an office or not. You are a leader, and you're a leader for the school.
And so talk a little bit about how that kind of leadership skill, being in an organization, whether it's Greek, or if it's your vice president or treasurer for SGA, or if you're an RA, talk about how those leadership skills that you learn as an undergraduate, how they translate into being in the real world, being in corporate America, working for a nonprofit, launching your own business.
It makes things a lot easier. It definitely makes things a lot easier, because then the tasks that you feel like are hard, or one of your peers may feel like it's hard, will be easy for you, because now you done spent all these years in those positions, in those organizations, learning how to manage money, learning how to talk to people, learning how to plan events. You're doing all those things. So then all of a sudden now, when you're a part of a Fortune 500 company, they want to plan their Christmas party. You're like, I've been doing that for years. I got it, and they may look at you like, oh my God, I can't believe you did that. Right. It's like, it's nothing, and I talk to a lot of my friends about that as well, because things that come naturally to us don't come naturally to anybody else, and that really matters in a corporate world. And that's why it's important to get that second education outside the classroom, because it puts your resume that much higher above everybody else. And then when you get the job, it puts your status that much higher, because you're able to do things that become natural, and you don't have to take 2 or 3 weeks to learn how to do something. Like it'll take a day, and it does make that much of a difference. Like a 3-week thing could take a day for somebody that, that learns how to manage and be a part of organizations and multitask and talk to people, like it can make that much of a difference.
Yeah, because you could be learning, you could be doing presentations for SGA, you could be managing budgets as a treasurer for SGA. And so you take those things and you take them into the real world. You mentioned networking a lot. And I think we have to talk about networking. I love that in the book, it's an acronym. And so you break it down to mean different things. And so the first thing you say is new friends and new partnerships for N. So N stands for new friends and new partnerships. Why new friends and why new partnerships?
Oh, well, that goes into the whole thing of me being an advocate for students or, high school students to leaving where they're from. No matter where you're from, I suggest either, like, if you're from an area where there's a big college, staying in the dorm as opposed to staying home. When I was lecturing with different students,
okay,
I tell people like this, like, you cannot get the same benefits living with your parents your freshman year as you would if you're going in a dorm. And I say that to say you have to get new friends, you have to get new partnerships. Like if you're in an area where you're uncomfortable, or an area where you're meeting new people and you're forced to meet new people, new things will happen. You're going to form new partnerships. You're going to form new friends, and that's what's necessary in order for you to grow. So that's why I talk about it, because that's all a part of networking. You got to be able to get out there. You got to speak to people. You got to meet people. You got to meet people that you wouldn't normally meet, when you're at home, or you're just sitting around not meeting anybody. So that's very important. That's why I make that the number one thing: new friends, new partnership. My
favorite is T, talk. You said talk because closed mouths don't get fed. And I believe that as a person who has just said certain things to people like, hey, well, I'm an editor, right? Hey, I'm a writer, right? Well, hey, I'm looking for new projects. If I don't say those things, then people can't think of me. They can't make the referral. So talk about how important it is for a student to just let other people know, hey, it could be anything from I need help tutoring. I need help in my class. I need a tutor, or I want to tutor other students. Talk about T. Closed mouths don't get fed.
I mean, we could talk about that just based off the interior design example with the freshman that's at Hampton right now. If she was quiet or she continued to be quiet, she's not going to reap the benefits of just telling people that she has a knack for, her dorm room and creating a comfortable space and a creative space in the dorm. So if she's quiet, doesn't say anything, she may not even have, her business may not be able to grow. But now, now hopefully, I'm probably sending an email now to kind of reach out to see what she's done over the past week.
Right.
But if she speaks up and starts talking to people in her dorm, she's going to have people now that she can give free business to, with, get a little business card out, and then all of a sudden that brings out extra referrals. All of a sudden she has a full business going on in a couple weeks. So that's very important. Like speaking up is very important. And I also talk about taking a public speaking class. If you're a little nervous, you stumble upon your words, take an elective, public speaking. It helps you out a lot, because now you're complementing your outside learning experience with the inside the classroom learning experience. So you're letting it work together. So I'm taking a public speaking class because I'm a little nervous around people. So now I'm learning how to speak.
Okay.
So it all works out.
Let's talk about, before we move on, let's talk about W. Willing to actively listen. Why is that crucial for a college student? Because when you're an undergrad, you think you know it all. So
right.
Who are you listening to?
You need to listen to everybody, because at the end of the day, it happens to everybody. It happens to me, happens to you. You may hear somebody talk, and then you just already in your mind know how you're going to respond, already know in your mind know what they're trying to say. And that's why I say you have to be an active listener, because you want to be able to listen to what they're saying and then interpret it. So like you have to be able to respond back to them in a way that they understand that you heard them. So that's what I talk about in the book, where you have to be an active listener. So when somebody's talking to you about their story or something they have going on, be able to interpret that and basically say it back to them like, oh, I understand what you're saying. Like, you like interior design, and this is a way that you want to make money in a few years. Okay, so how can we do that right now? So you have to be able to understand what people are saying, like, in that direct eye contact. That's very important, and engaging with people so that they understand and they feel what you're saying, and then now you're invested in what they have to say. And that's very important as a college student, because like you said, college students think they know everything, and they really don't know half of it, you know. So that is very important.
And two, thinking about how we spend most of our time looking down on our phones, the art of communication, being able to speak and even to listen to someone, we're losing it, because half the time when someone's talking to you, you're sending a text or you're scrolling, and so you're only getting half the message sometimes. So I think that's important, like you were saying, to actively listen. Yeah. So let's switch over to talking a little bit about the self-publishing journey, because you are not a writer by trade.
Not at all.
And you're an entrepreneur. You're a dad, and how did you do it? Was this the most difficult part of the process? Was the writing the most difficult part of the process?
I would say the most difficult part was the editing and narrowing it down.
Okay. Oh, that's right, because you told me you had a lot that was like 5 books.
Right. Yeah. So that I would say the hardest part was the editing and figuring out how this was going to work out. I finished the book in, I started November of last year, and I was done by March of 2019. So that's roughly about 6 to 7 months or so. And then maybe like another 3 months of editing, you know, and which ended up becoming 2 books. So I have 2 books completed. This is why you go to college, and this is why you prepare for college.
Okay.
So, and then that's when I made the decision to come out with a 4-part series, because there was so much information.
Right.
So yeah, for me, it was definitely the editing, and then realizing and taking the advice of so many people of, you know, you got to break this down. There's so much information, break it up into different parts. So taking the constructive criticism was very hard for me.
Right.
But I did it, you know, and here I am now. So
yeah. So talk to me a little bit about, I know you interviewed like 100+ people for the book, and so I'm sure that their stories are probably spread out across all 4 books.
Right.
How did you decide which stories, or no, back up. How did you decide who to talk to?
Okay. Well, I decided who to talk to based off of a documentary that I started back in 2007. So when I was back throwing parties and during that time period, I actually recorded that year. So all the people from that time period, I'm still in contact to this day. So I actually started to reach out to them like, yo, listen, I'm working on a documentary about college life outside of the classroom. And that's where the book came from. So I was interviewing everybody for the documentary. And then I realized a lot of the information and people learned in different ways. I realized that it would be better to have the documentary and then have the documentary in the book. So the documentary is available on my website, and I have the interviews up, but I wanted to have the book available for a young aspiring, you know, college student or someone in high school that wants to go to college, to give them our stories in a book, and then also have the documentaries to see the visual, you know. So that's where it came from.
Super smart, because people consume content different ways.
Different ways, yeah.
You just call that repurposing. You take what you have and you spin it all over the place. That's how you're supposed to do it. That's part of the marketing plan. Yeah. And speaking of marketing, you sold like 120 books like within like the first month of release. Talk about that, because not only is that a challenge for self-published authors, but that's a challenge just for people who have a traditional book deal. Some books, you know, you can hit and you can sell, and some books don't. So talk to me about your marketing plan and how you sold those books.
And you know what's crazy? I actually sold double that now.
What?
So,
okay.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
So I'm up there right now. I'm good.
That's good for you. That's good for you.
But my background is, you know, marketing and management. So I knew once I got to the point that it's ready, I knew I was going to be able to get it out there. You know, so my original plan was, as you can see, the shirts.
Yes.
Yes, I started with the family and friends bundle package, which came with a shirt and a book and a signed copy. So everything is available on Amazon, but I prefer for everything to go through my website, because I can make everything personable. Because people who purchase on Amazon, I don't know who purchased it. I don't know, you know, people tell me they purchased it, but I don't know who has it. Meanwhile, if they purchased through my website, I'm like, oh, you know, Ashley purchased it. So I know Ashley from college. I can say, yo, Ashley, back in the day, you know what I'm saying? Like, and now she has a personal book, So it's like, so I think that people appreciated that, and they would, when in turn, what they would do was they would go post it on Instagram. Like, oh, I got my book from Yancy. They'll post it on Instagram, and then I would go and, repost it. And then from there, it just kind of expanded, And then what I would also do was I would send out personal messages too. And we talked about that before, where I would utilize Facebook and social media, and I would send out personal messages to everybody about the book. Like, hey Barry, what's up? Man, I just came out with this book, This is why you go to college. Back in the day, we was wild out. It was crazy, right? All right, so yeah. So I want people to learn from the craziness that we went through. And that worked as well. And that ended up getting my first bulk package of 25 copies, because I was sending out messages and come to find out people that within my network work for different colleges and universities. So I ended up getting my first package.
Right. Which goes back to talk, because a closed mouth does not get fed. Because had you not hit up all those people individually, you would have never known that, hey, this person works for a university and we're going to order these 25 copies. So smart. And I just wanted to say for people who are thinking about self-publishing, the reason why, yes, Amazon is great. And I use Amazon myself, and so do you, to sell books. But what you were saying is really key about being able to have people purchase from your website, because not only do you get to write that personal note to Ashley, but now you have Ashley's email.
Right.
You put Ashley in your email database, and you can constantly let her know what's going on with the book. Hey, Ashley, I got some more t-shirts over here.
Yeah.
Hey, the documentary is about to air. It's about to come on, iTunes or something like that. And you're constantly connecting with Ashley, versus if Ashley bought the book on Amazon, one, you wouldn't know that Ashley bought it.
I have no idea, yeah.
You have no way to constantly communicate with her. So again, we got to be able to sell our merchandise in various places, because we have to be able to make it benefit us in the long run. Because if you're in the business of being a business person and being an entrepreneur, then you want to be able to make the money and not just give Amazon the money. And then, because Amazon does take half of the profit for your book. So not only do you get Ashley's information, but you get all of Ashley's coin as well.
Yeah.
Let's see. The documentary, you talked about that, and you said it's available on your website. Is there a charge to watch it, or is it?
No, you just watch. You go on THISISWHY.com and you click on connect, and you'll see everyone within my network. And then every week I post like 1 or 2 interviews. So right now it's about 30 or so up. And you can just check them out, and you click on it and you can watch it right there. Yep. Perfect.
Okay. So before we go into a couple of the questions that I have from people who sent me emails and hit me up in my DMs, I just wanted to ask you, there's a huge learning curve that you experience, because one, you're not a writer, and then you said you had a lot of people giving you criticism. I like to say critiques, because they want to make it better.
Yeah.
There's a huge learning curve that you had. So what's the difference now between book 1 and book 2 in terms of how you're going to approach things, whether it's from the editing standpoint, whether it's from the marketing standpoint?
Yeah, well, I'm not an English major, so I right from the beginning, like I said, I never thought I would be a writer. I barely like to write. I like to read, but I barely like to write. So I think that's something I'm going to constantly have to deal with. Not repeating words. Spacing. I noticed that spacing has been a big thing. Being able to, like I said, to take the criticism, and also understand that, that people are there to help, and I take that very dearly too. So I have plans, I have ideas, just being able to take people's advice and understand that things aren't going to be perfect, and just continue to work through it.
Was it anything that someone said to you where you just were like, oh man, I don't want to take that part out, or it hurt? It's sometimes, the criticism, the critique from the editor, if you're not used to it, you can take it a little personally, and it's not personal. The job of the editor is to make your copy better. It's supposed to the story is going to kill, right? So that's the job of the editor. Did you take any of it personally?
I didn't really take anything personally, but I know there were certain things of the book that I did want to put in there. There were certain things I wanted to put into the book, and I decided to take them out.
Okay.
And I took the advice of different people that I know that wrote books, and And one of my close frat brothers, Sean Woodley, Dr. Woodley, he wrote a book called MC Means Move the Class, and he teaches teachers how to teach in an urban setting.
Oh, I love that. I'm gonna have to talk to him. Go ahead.
He's a good guy. And I spoke to him about one of the critiques within my book, and he told me that, you know what, it's better to take it out and then speak about it later.
Yeah.
You know, so that's basically that's one of the best, some of the best advice that he was able to give me, because I knew that with the book it was going to allow me to speak in front of a lot of people and give my story. So certain things that I took out of the book, I know that I'm able to speak about later. So when I talked about certain things that may have been a little racy toward the end of the book, I know that now, stuff that I took out, I could just let people know, like, listen, this is what I meant by this, is what I meant by that. So people can read it, and then if they want to understand, they have questions, they can talk to me about it later on a more personal level, which is good.
Absolutely. Now, I know you're doing a tour and you're financing it yourself. And that's one of the things about being a self-published author, is that every decision is on you, from the cover. And I remember when you posted your first cover in the group and you asked us to, because we're both members, so everyone knows that we're both members of a group called the HBCU Hub.
Yeah.
And we're advocates for going to historically Black colleges and universities. So when you posted this in the group, we were all vocal. You had us vote on what we liked and what we didn't like. And all of those decisions come down to you. So why did you make the decision to say, you know what, I want to do a tour, I'm going to finance it? Why?
Because I know my big thing is that our story must be told. So I knew that the story had to be told, and what better way for the story to be told than the author, So I to me, it makes sense for people to hear it directly from me, So when I started my tour 2 weeks ago, I was able to go, and people were looking at the book, and they see on the back, they see my picture, like, oh, that's you. Like, yeah, it's me. So what do you want to talk about? So I think that really matters, and one thing that I've been working on, I think you might have seen it too, when I did the donate a book to a student.
Yes, I did. I thought that was brilliant.
That worked, and I didn't even want to do that idea with this particular book. I wanted to do that with the high school book, because my plan is I didn't want a high school student to have to pay for the book. So I was going to create a campaign so that people can donate to the cause. So when I do speak at these high schools, they can just get the books for free. I can just give the books out to whoever wants them,
Mm-hmm.
But I decided to test it out with the book tour, and it worked to perfection. So I was able to talk to people about the book, and when they say, oh, I'm really interested in the book, and I'm like, oh, how about you get the book for free? And I was able to give it right to them, and it says right in the book, donated by, Monique Peterson, and it says it right there, donated by college alumni Monique Peterson, and they get the book, and they walk away happy, and
I love it.
And I wouldn't be able to do that if I didn't go on a tour, So
right.
just being able to do that, is very refreshing, to go to a campus. And, some people, if I didn't have a book to give away, people were willing to pay for it, but just to give them a book for free and to walk into a classroom, speak to a class for 30 minutes and then do a free raffle, like that was cool. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So I just give the books away. Like, listen, I want y'all to have the information.
Yeah. You had your, oh, excuse me. I thought I turned my phone off. You had your Oprah moment. You get a book. You get a book.
Yeah, you get a book. You get a book. Yeah,
exactly.
Cool.
Everybody gets a book. I have a question here from Joseph Stewart, and he said, and I'm not sure if this relates to you being an author or you being a business person in general, but what do you do to combat doubt when it rears its ugly head and it might prevent you from being great? What do you do?
Oh man, to combat doubt. I get a lot. I doubt myself pretty often, but then I do my research.
Mm-hmm.
I look at all my options, and I'm always one to have multiple plan A's. I don't have a plan A, plan B, plan C. I have multiple plan A's. So
A1, A2.
Yeah, exactly. Like this is gonna be just as fine. So that's what I do. I plan everything out. I write it out. I visualize everything. Like, all right, if I do this, is this gonna work? What I'm gonna do if this goes wrong? And that's what I do. I develop a good plan, and I make sure that I have good options.
Okay. This is actually a question that I ask people on social media. I ask them, what would you tell your college self so that you set your adult self up for success later? Is there anything, I mean, you kind of did some of the things that you're telling people to do, but is there anything that you feel like you missed that you would tell your college self? What would you tell young Yancy, undergraduate at Hampton University, so that you could, you know, be superstar later on?
Yeah, I think I definitely would have told myself to be more patient. That's something I didn't learn until like my 30s, that patience is very important. I took a lot of risk, and I think at the time, it's good to take risk at 22, 23 years old. But as you start to get, you know, a little bit older, it's like, you know, you got to kind of, you know, risk reward it. You know, like, all right, if I do this, like, if this goes wrong, what can happen, you know, and can I handle this worst case scenario? So definitely patience is very, you know, when they say patience is a virtue, it's serious, you know, like you need to learn how to be patient, understand that things aren't going to just happen the next day. And then also, you know, plan for the future properly. You know, I've made some mistakes, you know, in my 20s, and I'm going to talk about that in later books, as far as learning from my mistakes and learning from the mistakes of my peers. Also, as a college student too, being prepared to have your college education paid for before you graduate.
Oh, yes.
And I think that's I think that's very important, especially if you can line yourself up to either have as much of a full scholarship as possible, or to just, when you get the refund check, save it for the next semester. Like,
come on, you better preach.
Yeah, certain things that people never told us, you know, like we didn't know about any of that stuff, you know, like.
Right, you just thinking you got $3,000.
Right, like I got it, I'm about to do what I do.
You're about to hit the mall.
Yeah, but that stuff is important for people to understand, because at the end of the day, that money is borrowed money.
Right.
You know? So if you could figure out a way to either invest it properly or use that money to save it for the next semester, it's going to help you, you know, later on. And that's some of the things that I didn't know about. But interviewing all these people, that's things that they knew about. Someone told them, but they didn't tell us, you know. Right. So I think those are important keys to know.
Absolutely. Well, Yancy, we're going to end it on that note. Thank you so much. You guys go out, check out the book, order it from Yancy's website. And we just told you why. This is why you go to college, how to successfully graduate in real life studies outside the classroom and beyond. Thank you guys for watching. Yancy, thank you for being here and sharing some gems with the people. I know they're going to go to the website and buy that bundle so they can get the t-shirt, they can get the book. They'll be hooked up. They'll check out the documentary. Talk to you soon, Yancy. Take care.
Later.
Bye.